I cannot imagine a world without artists.
Oh my God, AI can do this in like 2 seconds. What do I need, you guys?
Do you think it would have substituted the artist?
The AI is soulless. AI doesn't have feelings.
Okay, what is our future?
Artists can never be replaced. This is just a fact of life.
Hi everyone, my name is Ninel Anderson. I'm CEO of Devoted Studios and I'm your host at Devoted SpeakEasy. Today we have an amazing guest with us, Joshua Balcaceres. Joshua, hi.
Good afternoon or good morning, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. How are you? Thank you for having me, Ninel, and thank you all the audience for listening and spending a couple of minutes of their time with me.
Well, today we're definitely going to have more than a couple minutes because we're going to have a very controversial topic that everybody is like, oh, don't even start me. But I want to dig in
a little hot about it. Yes,
a little hot, yeah.
Yes.
But I want to dig in a little bit into your background so our audience gets to know you and understands your experience. And like, what is it? Is it coming in on 20 years now? You started in the gaming and visual arts industry in 2003, right?
Yeah, that's right. I was actually thinking about the other way because we did some we chatted before and all the emails and stuff like that, right? So I'm like driving to the gym and I'm like thinking like, how long has it been? After you asked me like how long it's been, like how long has it been? Man, it's coming up to like 22 years.
Well, I believe since then you had an amazing professional career, currently being a lead artist at Ubisoft and XDefiant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, a bunch of things like working at Obsidian, one of my favorite studios, working at 2K, working on Millennium Falcon Ride with Disney Imagineering, Super Evil Megacorp, like all those amazing studios. So is there a favorite project? The one that you feel you grew the most from?
Of course. I don't know if I should say, just because it's kind of like your kids, it's like, who do you love the most? I'm very thankful for all of the experience that I've had. I will say that if you force me, I will choose probably Lucasfilm also, because I was hired there at the time that it was like pre-Disney. Nothing wrong with Disney now or anything like that, right? But when it was pre-Disney, George ran it as a private company, and it was, and you were sort of like invited to come apply there, and like they will call you, and there will be very fewer candidates, for example, than most candidates at another company, because you were almost like hand-picked and hand-selected, right? Because George will say like, it doesn't make sense if we, hire a guy and then tell, and Steve Jobs will say the same thing. They'll say the both in the same way. Like, it doesn't make sense to hire him and, tell him what to do. We should hire him and be like, okay, we have this problem. Tell us what to do. How would you approach this problem, right? So it was very healthy work environment. Like, shout out to my art directors like Greg Knight, and all the people that I got to work there and kind of like grow there and see like to be exposed to like high quality like caliber work from legends, essential legends. Do you understand? Like Oscar winners and stuff like that, right? It's just like, now you understand why I just go like, I should be dead, but I'm here with like Guillermo del Toro, like running around. I had tacos with Guillermo del Toro, you know what I mean? Because he was like in the thing. And so it's just a great opportunity. We're just like, oh my God, you're Latino. It's like, yeah, I'm Latino too. It's like, oh my God, you work here? It's like, yes. And there you go. It was the greatest. I'm telling you, it's like one of the greatest experiences of my life.
So now that the audience knows a little bit of your background and working in the industry for a little over 20 years, I'm pretty sure you went through a lot of technology changes and changes, like software changes and pipeline changes, and definitely like for somebody like me who is running a company that works with a lot of artists everywhere in the world, security, safety, and well-being of artists is one of the most important things. And frankly, talking with all this new AI stuff going on, the first 2 months, I've been very concerned, questioning like, okay, what is our future? Where are we going? Are we going to be needed? Will the service that I do on a daily basis and what we create? So, but I want to kind of focus our conversation on not being an oracle, because I don't think anyone of us actually knows how it's going to be, what we're going to do, what's going to be practical application. But I don't think we can avoid it. I think it's just going to become a part of our life.
That is
So
correct.
is there a
Yes.
way for us to maybe not fight it, but figure out a way where we could cohesively integrate into our work without artists being abused, without anyone taking advantage of anyone? So I was wondering if we can come from an angle of, with all your experience, like if you had AI
Hmm.
building all these amazing projects that you built
Hmm.
before, do you think it would have substituted the artist, or it could have been integrated in your pipeline? And if so, how?
I think, you have very valid points. I don't think you are incorrect in anything that you've said. And before I even speak, I understand the gripe, and I want to make sure to be empathetic to the artistic community. I am an artist myself. You know what I mean? And I think also I was telling you before when we started doing the prep for this podcast, right? It's like no one knows the future.
I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.
The only thing that we know for sure, for certain, like you very well put, is that this is just a fact of life going forward. You know what I mean? The genie is just out of the bottle, period. You know what I mean? There's no putting the genie out. This is an open, open source program, open source code. Anybody can do it. So there's no, it's out there completely. You know what I mean? I equate it to, Napster. Do you remember Napster when Napster was
Mhm.
like big, everything like that? Okay, Napster was the same thing. It was an open software, and then there was like attempts to stop Napster and everything like that. And then Morpheus came out, and then LimeWire came out, and then there's no stopping it, right? There was no stopping it because there will always, like, once the genie's out, right? And finally, what happened? But there was like an ethical and correct way to do this because it is the future. So it gave rise to companies like Spotify, like Pandora, like Apple Music, the company, the very same company that opposed to streaming music and everything like that, that at the time it wouldn't even sell single songs. You'll have to buy the album in the Apple store. Like most
Mhm.
listeners will remember this, right? And so the pushback from this, right? Everything, like the hit was like tectonic, right? Napster's here. You can download any song from whatever, even songs, right, Ninel, from like Ukraine that you haven't even heard for years. You haven't even heard this song. It was like now it's at the palm of your hand. I think AI art is going through the same LimeWire sort of Napster situation right now, and that's why folks, that are art folks, essentially, they're taking like the Metallica sort of like stance, right? And they're like, "Oh my God, this is too dangerous. This is too dangerous." But it's still, there's still a lot of things that are happening right now. Like, I mean, this thing is evolving every other week almost. You know what I mean? I read the patch notes from the folks at Midjourney and stuff like that, and it is getting concerning. I'm the first one to say yes, but I think there is a very healthy approach. I'm always looking at the kind of like Spotify in the future, Apple Music in the future, where like right now it's just a bomb and the dust and like cities getting destroyed, like otherwise, you know what I mean? But then
Yeah,
the
that's
dust
how it
will settle.
feels.
Right, that's how it feels, but that's how it always is, you know what I mean? Like if you're the first one through the door, it always gets bloody, you know what I mean? It always gonna get bloody because in a way you're not threatening people's like you're not threatening people's like art or anything like that, but what you're doing is like threatening their lives and threatening their like you said, right? How do we pay the cars now? How do we pay this? Because I was good at this, now a program is gonna do this. And I think I have like a different sort of like point of view at this. Like, yeah, it's concerning, but I think in my view, my view, in my own opinion, it's more good than bad, in my opinion.
Okay. Can you give me examples of how you see it being good, or how could it be adopted for good without substituting artists?
That's also, let's start like right there, for example, right? Which is like that's
Mhm.
the main concern that everybody has, right? Number one concern, like, there was like a banner icon right here. Number one concern, right? Like AI is going to replace artists.
No, God, please, no, no.
So, yesterday I made a post saying basically kind of like what I'm going to say here, just paraphrasing. So I had a kind of like I was put together a mood board of like different shapes and things, like different colors, right? Some like yellow colors, like kind of like 3D bit looking, right? But it's kind of like, remember, this is kind of like, I don't even know what I want at this point. Do you understand, right? I just want like some shapes and some vibes, to kind of get like the creative juices flowing, right? Now, imagine that AI doesn't exist. AI never existed, right? So for this task, Joshua will have to go to like Google Images or Pinterest, maybe ArtStation, right, to get inspired by some shapes, or maybe, or just Google certain like topics that I want, right? And then this is a task, for example, this is a normal task that our directors have all the time. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna send like a packet or something like that to like a vendor like Devoted Studios. Please, Devoted, amazing work, by the way. But then, you know what I mean? And so, I'll be like, hey, Ninel, I put together the shapes or whatever, right? We're trying to make X. It really doesn't matter what we're trying to make, right? Hey, Ninel, your artists are going to receive a mood board from me. Here you go, right? And this is the mood board that are, you guys can see here as well. And then you can see that there's some like triangles, there's some shapes, but it's sort of like everything's like all over the place because I don't even know what I want, right? And that's where AI starts, right? This task would have taken me 2 hours to put together, scouring Instagram, stock photos, right? Remember, this is throwaway art that is meant for use for inspiration, right? It's going to be sort of like just a visual guide to the artist who's going to receive it. And in turn, it's going to turn it into usable art, correct? Right? Because I don't even know what I want. The artists don't even know what I'm going to ask them. And then, but I have to, there needs to be some sort of middle ground where like the inspiration starts, right? And that's why the name, in my opinion, it fits great. It's mid-journey. You already start at the middle of your journey. And within 15 minutes, I had the mood board that, as you can see right here, and then I felt that this was enough direction that I could probably, if I wanted to or not, send it to a vendor, let's just say, for them to start iterating on actual variations of usable art that I need for my side. So that is why, in my opinion, artists can never be replaced, like I said in my post, because the computer doesn't even know what you want. I didn't even know what I want when I started this task. Do you understand, right? But you can start in the middle. You can start in the mid journey of your what's it called, artistic example, right? And so if I'm reading my post a little bit just to kind of like catch myself up, you know what I mean? It needs to go to a person, you know what I mean? Because mid journey is just like a tool, like you said. It's just a printer. It's just the camera. Mid journey is Photoshop. Mid journey is your Mac. Midjourney is your Wacom. And so now AI, the AI of your choice, be it Dream Studio, being Actual Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and there's many others on coming in there. It's just another thing. It's just a tool for your ultimate end goal, which is like creating art, right? And so I also said that, it should go to an artist because artists, the computer cannot ever recreate the sublime. You know what I mean? And the sublime is like the pursuit that artists have when somebody like yourself, you know what I mean, a not so artistic folks in like the visual arts, but an artist in somewhere else, right? If you look at something that is made by an artist in the visual arts, it should make you go sublime. It should make you stop, and it should make you go, that's very beautiful. That's very interesting. That is something that you will never get with AI. You know what I mean? If somebody puts if Ninel Anderson from Devoted puts like banana riding a skateboard in the style of Andy Warhol, let's just say, and the banana comes out, and believe me, and the AI will be like masterful about it. You know what I mean? Like, or a very good representation of this. And again, it's getting better every other 3 weeks or every month. It's scary how it folds, like it almost like compounds onto itself. You know what I mean? So, but if that banana example that I just gave it to you, for example, right? Any artist that I know, or any artist worth his salt, or his or her salt, you know what I mean? They're gonna go banana writing Andy Warhol, and then they see that, and then they go like, oh my God, that's perfect. I'm gonna put that on my portfolio. That is not an artist at all, basically. You know, right? An artist will find a way to improve that image and give it those custom touches that only an artist can do.
And I already see imaging for, let's say, mobile stylized games, putting in a prompt, stylized characters, variations, customization, and stuff like that, where a lot of companies do use artists that are junior plus level, mid-level, to create all these items when you follow somebody's art direction. Now, when AI can do it in 2 minutes instead of an artist doing it for 5 days, talking about not having artists being needed for stylized mobile games in a range of a year. Are we there? Or like, how do you see the role of an artist polishing in that genre? Because I feel like a lot of artists do come from, a junior level doing first simple mobile games. How do you get to a lead artist if you don't do any of that stuff and you learn what's good, what's not? That kind of an area that is very, as you said, concerning to me, because I cannot imagine a world without artists, without art, and they need some playgrounds. So I don't know, what's your take on like mobile stylized?
Now, if we were on a project and I will be the art director and I will be telling my juniors like, oh my God, AI can do this in like 2 seconds. What do I need, you guys? Right? You know what I mean? My first question as like a real art director will be like, I mean, is that really the faces that we're going for? Is that really the art style that we want? I mean, it's great that it can produce it in 2 seconds, but like, if 2 seconds and we're getting this quality, how about we spend 1 week and refine the quality with the AI as well? Am I going to do it myself personally? No, probably not. I still need an artist to do it for me because I'm doing other stuff. I'm probably doing the devoted podcast with you, or I'm reviewing other concept art that is coming out from other vendors, or I'm like, I'm in a meeting simply discussing like, hey, do we need to hire people or something like that? Meanwhile, an artist is still iterating on those faces, is still overpainting on those faces. Like you can grab it, paint, you know what I mean? Like freckles, paint, feed it back to the AI, improve the design, come back to me, let's refine it even more, and there you go. So artists are still going to be needed. There's the companies companies are not really realistically, they're going to get rid of all the artists and have AI do everything for them. It's going to turn out exactly like this. These are like, they're not shapes or anything like that you're seeing right here. They're like faces for your mobile game. Like they have like a cohesive soul, let's just say, and like they all vibe to each other, but there's no style.
Because you were talking about refining, right, and doing iterations. But in order to have the skills of refining and doing iterations, you should have gone through a certain school of doing it multiple times and getting to the level and skill. But if that base skill of drawing is like, you're going into refinement skin rather than creation skill, right? But how do junior artists get to a play, like what is the playground where they could learn in order to be capable to refine? Does that make sense?
Art school, that is the playground.
Okay.
You do what I'm saying? Like their playground for you as an artist to grow, learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, see what colors go with each other, learn the form, learn like your line, your face line, who always should be in the middle, like it's your line that are nose. So whenever your angle nose, you see how like the angle follows, right? Midjourney is not really yet capable of even understanding those things yet, as I said, right? It's getting better with faces. Now we're getting better with hands and things like that, right? So the artists that you mentioned, right, like those junior artists, right, they're going to have to be in the playground of art school like every human being has been, and then use the AI as a tool to go like get superpowers with now that they know the basics. AI gives them like superpowers. They become Captain America essentially.
Is he insane? What is he doing?
He's being Captain America.
But how about quantity of scope of art that needs to be created versus quantity of artists, right? Now that things are going to be done faster, would we need less artists? Would we need only more skilled artists?
I think some tasks, I think that the realistic portion of this, and this is the part where like I think I'm probably going to say the first kind of like thing of the podcast, you know what I mean? That is kind of like not so good news, I will say, you know what I mean? And I will start it by this. I'll phrase it with like this kind of like metaphor first. Like my uncle's a trucker, and he has been a trucker for a little bit older, a little bit longer than I have been a professional artist, for example, right? Remember, I love my uncle. My uncle's great and it's amazing. It has nothing to do with this. It's just an example, right? So for 26 years or so, my uncle came from El Salvador. He didn't have anything, right? Like many people, and he just became a trucker. So his business was to drive a truck from California to Arizona, loading Arizona, bring it back to California. So fast forward to 2022, Ninel, your boy Elon Musk has decided to make trucks that drive themselves, right? Eliminating the need for truck drivers. So, with my uncle's kind of like example in mind, right? My uncle had to know within 26 years of life that there was going to be a point. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but turns out that after 26 years, right? They have invented the technology that a truck can drive itself, load itself, and then come back to California safe and sound. Therefore, eliminating his job forever, right? Right. So, what is my uncle gonna do? Right? Is he going to like just give up and like go roll over, or is he gonna go find another job? Because there's other driver jobs that do not require that kind of level of automation that he can do with his experience. You see what I'm saying? So the same thing I tell artists as well, right? So you've been in the industry for a long time, and by you I mean no one. I'm not thinking of anybody in this in this specific. I'm not thinking of anything that you yourself as a listener are doing anything right now. And like I equate those kind of level of thinking to more of like a home cook thinking. You know what I mean? In the home cook field, Ninel, my God, please take 6 hours making that chicken. Do it. Like show your husband, like look at this amazing, beautiful chicken. It's got rosemary and everything. And it's sort of like cooking therapy, and you love that it took long and everything, right? Amazing, right?
So I only put a little bit on my fork and I blow till it's cool, just cool, then into the mouth. Nice.
So for us professional artists, we work in like the kind of like the 4-star Michelin star Nobu kind of restaurant, right? Where we are not like, if you watch Ratatouille, right? Like Colette, like the girl yells at the guy who's like, what do you think? What do you think this is like? Where the mommy and daddy cooking like Thanksgiving dinner here? Or like, no, we are like, and she grabs the onions, like start like chopping them. Like we're like quick over here. We're like quick, fast. You know, we're trying to get an idea across quick. And then every day that goes, it's potentially millions of dollars spent on something. I mean, can definitely empathize. Like time is essentially an essence.
So do you think that the fair future going to look something like a Spotify, where artists do upload their own artwork that AI can choose from, and then Spotify or of art
or whatever, yeah, exactly,
attributes how many connections of AI was to specific artwork, and then pays royalties to the artist whose artwork was an inspiration for AI to create certain things.
Yeah, so because that's a point of concern. I would say that's point of concern number 2, and that's where artists do not need to be too much worried about that, because you just said it, right? So AI doesn't work like that at all. Remember, the code is human. A human made this. So that's why I always said in my post, like if you want to copy it, if you want to copy something and reference another artist, just use Photoshop, because that's will be faster. The AI, the code exactly works like human inspiration does. Like you will look at different things, get inspired by it. You're not exactly copying unless you specifically have that intent. And the AI will literally tell you that, okay, we're about to copy, right? So give me an image. Give me an image that I'm going to literally copy this. So it has to be you. You decide that. Just like you decide if you're going to like rip off something in Photoshop, or you're going to Photoshop something, or you're going to deep face something. You decide. It starts with you.
But there's a bunch of internet, like things on the internet where you could see an art piece and AI did an inspired version of it, and then it has a signing of a different artist that the AI took as an inspiration.
Yeah, the seed image, right?
Yeah.
The inspiration image, right? So again, right? So I will also send another example of this. What you're seeing right now is 2 images. One on the left, it is made by AI, and the one on the right is made by an artist, a Japanese artist that I'm escaping me right now, but I'll go ahead and credit it right here, and they're on Twitter, right? On the image on the left, you can definitely see that there is like certain things. And remember, this artist fed the original artist AI, the original artist piece, gave it to the AI and be like, replicate something similar around this vibe. And then I will pass it as my own work, right? But again, the art community, who is professional, by the way, right? They quickly identify, like, wait a second, I've seen this art before, right? And then they put the two images inside, and it was not even a contest which one is the best looking image. It was the image from the Japanese artist. And do you know why? Because the Japanese artist took time to actually pose and get the line that I was saying, like the line of the spine. It's like a beautiful anime girl just showing her back. Very feminine pose, very subtle. That's what I'm telling you. See, that is the sublime that AI will never be able to replicate, because AI doesn't have feelings. AI is not you. It's not Ninel Anderson.
Okay, I got you on a 2D art about the soul, about the inspiration, about the posing, da 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 da. But then we have 3D art that does use concept or even like photos of a real object, and you need to reproduce it in 3D. I'm talking about props, like a chair, stairs, or things like that, and animation. Like, I think Ubisoft is coming up with AI software that is filling in the blanks, like from the mocap data when it was shot, improves the animation to the level of like between the shots, like creates the better transitions and things like that. So I know there's like two big questions. Let's try to unpack them. Like the 3D, what do you think? Where are we? How far away from that? And then the mocap.
All right, so 3D, yeah. So there's already models. For example, NVIDIA already has, I think it's leading the charge for this 3D situation, right? So 3D is a different beast altogether, right? So 2D is dealing with these changes right now, is evolving, situations developing as it is going. I'm hopeful, I don't think artists need to be completely down on their luck, because you're still going to be needed to clean up and iterate and refine those things. For 3D, for example, right? NVIDIA is leading the charge for this, where you can just type something, pig, Victorian chair, like you said, right? Something like this, right? And then AI is currently, today, spitting crude but usable meshes at this point, and like you mentioned, right, even though I'm not at a capacity to kind of like speak for Ubisoft right now at this point, because I love my company, so I wouldn't speak for them. But yes, indeed. So Ubisoft has like an AI, I believe, that they're developing currently, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too familiar with them, but they're inputting. You can input a dialogue, for example, a wave file, right, of like you reciting a poem or something like that, right? And the AI will determine tones, and then they will determine what to do.
Society has left behind what nobody listens to you anymore. Nobody thinks about you anymore. And yet it is you who populate our shopping malls.
So your question was like, what's going to happen to the mocap studios and everything like that, right? My argument is they will still exist. They will just polish the real stuff that they want to polish. I don't think mocap studios want to polish like crowd animations when they're sad, or polish like sound with like the, hey, like, like the hands like this in video games all the time, right? Like, okay, you never have to worry about that. There's certain things, like whatever, like the Grand Theft Auto, like, where are you going? And like, you know what I mean, right? Like, come back, like all that stuff, right? So now the things are just gonna become more fluid, right? And just to be clear, for this example, right, that we're saying, at least for the Ubisoft example, right, this is time that no animator had in a 3D kind of like pipeline over here. If we go into a AAA production, let's say for example, a crowd game like Grand Theft Auto, right, where I love their work, I have no idea how they make this, right? But let's say the Grand Theft Auto 6 has like crowd technology or something like that, right? Does it make sense to have an AI animate the technology? I mean, sorry, the new technology, because this is just like, for largely, there's just like interactive, like not even meaningful work for an animator. Like this can be just like streamlined by the computer. You know what I mean? Because like the player's not gonna be like interacting with the crowd all the time. The crowd just needs to have to sort of like be there and have emotion. You need to interact with like the main characters of the story, right? You need to interact with like quests and like story NPCs or anything like that. Like now that is the stuff that needs to get really polished up, because that's like an integral part of the work. And so now the mockup studios using AI can even further polish this work to that way it's like super quality. You see what I'm saying? Making those games shine and things, you know what I mean? Which, by the way, 3D artists are a little bit more malleable on this. There's 3D artists today, for example, like even junior 3D artists at Ubisoft that will rather use Houdini or something procedural like that to create like a stone wall or something like that. They already do it on kind of like Substance Paint or Substance Designer, right? They don't need to place every single individual brick. You see what I'm saying? Like the 3D artists are the ones who are more embracing to this technology, because that just means more time with their families, more time doing something else, less time doing menial work and more time doing the stuff what they do, which is anime. Like character artists can finally concentrate on the face and like really get those true rich details that like ZBrush and AI are going to be able to give you one day. And that is what's exciting about it, not the negative stuff, because there's more happy use cases and good cases for AI than there's bad cases.
So what do you think we need to embrace?
I think we need to embrace change. You know what I mean? I think it's always we need to embrace change, be it like in our marriages, in our personal life, in our work, and certainly in our hobbies now, and the things that we do. Like AI is just here to stay. My brother's a doctor. He's going to have to use AI in his own field. There's no if and buts about it. It doesn't mean that the doctors are gonna go away. Are you kidding me? That's like the craziest thing. But like, let's step like when there's a big tectonic change like this, right? Like, take a step back. The world isn't ending. The world, I promise you, the world was here way before Photoshop. It will be here before AI. Artists are not going away because you're still gonna be needed, right? There's still people who are gonna be in like other states, gonna be like Bananas, Andy Warhol. Oh, look at it, where it came out, great. And then they're going to go their way. But there are going to be guys that are going to grab that and they're going to be like, I think it could be so much more than this. And that is a real artist. And a real artist will never be okay with whatever Midjourney just put out, because Midjourney doesn't care. Do you understand? Midjourney is just a bunch of code. It doesn't care what you input or you export or anything like that. A real artist is going to be like, I can make this better. And then he's going to find out like how to make it better in Photoshop, just like you make things better in AI, just like you make things better in Photoshop by, going to school, watching tutorials, learning how the slider works and all that stuff, right? You and your company, you're probably going to be okay. There's going to be some changes. I will tell you that. I don't know what those changes are going to be. And that's the reality and the concerning part of that, right? But I don't think, bearing, any major things, you know what I mean? I think that your streamlining progress is going to go even better, and the quality of output that Devoted does will plus up, rather than we're not going to need artists here and there.
I would love to kind of regroup on this conversation in 6 months from now. And
sure, absolutely. I would love that.
We see the progress from like where we are at here,
right now,
where the AI going to get the world in on 3D, on like, I get it, there could be like, mashes, but what about production art? What about,
exactly
all the technical requirements? And
that's
but
exactly
are we 3 years away, or are we 5 years away, or are we 10 years away when AI can spit out a really good production art? Well, thank you so much for coming, and looking forward for catching up in 6 months from now.
Thank you very much. And again, a great pleasure. And thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you.
Thank you.